Hey guys, welcome to another Tardis building video. I'm really excited to talk about this one because this one is the Helm Panel. Now this one's kind of interesting. This one is mostly designated or recognizable by its actual helmet controls. So you have the brake on the one side and the throttle on the other. Both of those are pretty cool pieces and they pretty much outline what this console is. This one in particular has more custom made pieces for it than all the other panels, specifically the throttle and the brake. So speaking about those right off the bat, we'll start right with the throttle, which was custom made by Nick Verbato for this build, and it's beautiful. Obviously, the inspiration for it is typical boat or plane throttles. You name it, pretty much trying to get that feel and overlook. Maybe they couldn't find something, maybe they wanted something just kind of unique, maybe they wanted something brass and silver, so it was up to Nick to do that, and I think he did a great job. Now, thankfully, Nick has put up, at some point, he put up some behind the scenes build photos of this particular build, and he released some of the photos of showing this. So I'm gonna show those here, and you can see kind of the behind the scenes look at these throttle pieces. So I'm looking forward to actually building this. Now the big question for me is, do I do it out of 3D printing or do I do it out of metal? Now I have already 3D modeled this, I'm showing it here as well, and I'm really proud of how this looks. It is shrunk down a little bit based on my build, but I'm really happy with it. Looking at how the dimensions all work and how it all function, it's a pretty simple piece. I will be 3D printing this regardless to kind of see how the size works out. I need to make sure it's gonna fit before I commit to doing metal. I would prefer to do metal more than anything else. Either metal completely or metal pieces. The actual kind of like black PVC pipe that he used to machine, I can't really do that, so I'm gonna 3D print that piece just because of what it is, and I think it will kind of look just fine the way to sand it and all that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to doing that. But regardless, I'm looking forward to kind of seeing how this works. Now the brake on the other side, also custom made by Nick, also had some pictures put up, and it has some unique details, and I've also 3D modeled it, so I'm showing those here as well. And I mean, it works pretty great. It has a great look to it. It has some sanded down grip handles, which I'm looking forward to doing as well. I've kind of have an idea about how to actually put them together so that you don't see any posts or screws. The biggest difference is the throttle when it's up or down. I have to double check, but I'm pretty sure when it's up, does light up the two bulbs that are behind it, and the brake throttle, as you move it back and forth, turns on and off the hat lights that go around. That's the biggest functionality that they have, and I will hopefully retain those going forward. Now underneath the throttle is some pilot lights, which I do have. Again, it's the colored ones, and a regular bezel lens as well. So I'm hopefully gonna just kind of put those in there. Again, I know I haven't really talked much about these lights, but hopefully in the actual building of this, you'll see more of the process of casting, molding them, and putting them in. To the right of that is this toggle switch with a safety cap. Now these are those kind of things you normally see in like a movie where it has like an explosive device and they gotta click it, or safety, or hey, you gotta click them all up and put the safeties down. It's pretty cool. Thankfully this has had some pretty good decent pictures through my reference, and you can see that they were actually illuminated and had a green bulb, which I have got here. Very simple piece. You can get them on AliExpress and eBay and everywhere like that. They're a very common part, and I think I got it pretty close. I'm pretty happy with the one I have. Like I said, unless I find a more accurate one, if this isn't quite accurate enough for me, this is really good and I'm really happy with this. Just a really simple piece. It was actually one of the first pieces I found in this build, being that it's so modern. Now moving up from there are pieces I have not fully identified. One, I've got something kind of close, but starting with the kind of marble lenses that are there, these are really cool. These are large lenses like LED or panel indicator lights, but they have like a marbled finish and they're kind of more spherical. They do have a base that's knurled, so obviously there's something that screw on. I do think these are found parts. I just don't know what they're from. I have taken looks here and there to try and find them. I've looked at everything from cars to you name it. These could easily be anything. The fact that it has a knurl on it does show that it's made to actually screw in, so however that was used in its initial use, I guess we'll have to wait to find out. Now above those are two pieces. One piece is a joystick to me on a beveled base, and I think it's something like this. Now this isn't exactly right, but it is pretty close. I think it's close enough for me to use for now. And this is just a typical joystick for like a gaming unit. It just goes up and down, not left to right. And I'm pretty happy with it. Again, not fully accurate, but good enough I think for this build at this time. This one I got on AliExpress. Again, I'll put the name of it in the description. Initially I thought it was some sort of antenna, but I think it's a joystick, to be honest. Now beside that is another piece that hasn't been identified, but I think it's either a choke or a vintage car indicator light used, you know, for wipers or whatnot, like I mentioned in my previous video about the LED ones that are in the other socket. So I think this is kind of similar. I think this is in a similar position, like a vintage piece. So I'm gonna find something that kind of looks like that. Worst case, this particular one, if I can't find exactly what I'm looking for, I probably will model and print it, mainly because if I can't find something super close, I'm gonna wanna get as close as I can with that. I can do that with most of these pieces. Even the yellow bulbs underneath that, if I want to, I could probably just model them and make it, or model it, make it, and then cast yellow resin with a little swirl effect to it. I haven't really decided yet. I always wanna hold out to find the pieces for two reasons. One, so I know what it is, because that's very important to me to know what this piece is, and two, hopefully I can find it. If I can find it, I'd rather use the real one. There's just something about using actual vintage parts on this that just seems so right. Custom made pieces if I have to. So there's a few pieces, including a piece on this one, that I'll also have to do that with, but hopefully it all works out. Now on the other side, as I mentioned, there's those little hat pieces that are all over the thing, so I will probably be looking for those and finding them. Whether they're a machining part, whether they're a piece that you can screw into, it doesn't really matter what they are. I just want the metal pieces and the LED sits inside. It looks like that is what they are. They're just kind of mounted there. And then I got some rocker switches, or switches in general, that can actually hit as it goes across to turn them on and off. So hopefully it works out. I got a little bit of engineering to figure out for that, but I am looking forward to that. Now above that though is something that has been kind of insanely trying to find for a long time. Again, what something is will help you find it, but if you don't know what it is, you're kind of lost. And for a while, those lights kind of stood out to me of what are they? Were they custom machined? Were they made? It was hard to tell until I saw them on another console build, and I realized, no, these are definitely something. And that's one of the things that made me reach out to Bob's Bits the second, third time, and I did, and they did have the collars. Now these 4 collars are a lot bigger than I thought they were, and unfortunately they only had one lens, which I'm showing here. So I'm going to have to cast them to have the 4 colors, which I'm definitely doing, and I'm excited about it. Now I am thinking something's still missing because they sit fairly loose in this collar, which you'll be seeing in the close-ups, and the holes on the side are just holes, they're not tapped. So however they're actually mounted, I think there's a collar that this lens fits into, and then this slides over top and then bolts to it. Again, I don't know much more about that. Again, though, they could have just got these from Bob's Bits and then glued them all together. So without knowing what they did, I'm probably going to, since I have to cast this anyway, I may engineer something that will slide in a little more tighter and then mount them onto the actual panel itself. But I'm really excited. Look at these things. I got 4 of them, that just like the ones that were used, and don't know what they are. If you know what they are, please comment so I can update my documents when this is all over. But for now, I'm really excited to have these actual pieces. Bob's Bits did have some other ones, including some knurled ones, so if you're looking for these yourself, definitely hit them up. Now above that is another switch I cannot find, and I actually know what it is. Thankfully, some people who have got to see the Tardis console up close have taken pictures here and there. Most of them have been on an angle because they're trying to get the whole console piece, like, you know, straight on. But somebody on Twitter did post this picture, which I'm posting here, that shows the close-up of this particular piece. Now, before in other pictures, I did see the bottom text that said Anthony Caramore from England. I did do some research for that, but this top view does give me almost every other piece of information I needed on it. Mainly that it has a PTO, push to operate light or button, but it also has a tip control. So likely this was used in a tow truck situation or another mechanical garbage truck or something. Anthony Caramore, did do some research, is a trucking company that was in Britain many years ago. From what I can tell, they're not even there anymore. So this piece that was initially designed back then, it doesn't there. So wherever they got it from, wherever the BBC got it from, and whether it's Bob's Bits or whether it's from their own archives or from their own sources, this piece looked like it was custom made for Anthony Caramore, and therefore not likely to find. Now, I could still find it, and I will keep on looking. However, in the interim, I'm gonna just do my own. I'm gonna do this custom plate, which I've already decided on. I'm gonna do a couple of custom personal details on it. However, I'm also going to come up with some sort of internal device so that I can actually switch those switches back and forth. They're probably not going to do anything because of that. The light though is going to go on and off. That is something I do want to have happen. I have a light on its way from AliExpress that should fit in that spot pretty good. I am going to get these plates made out of metal and laser cut and machined so that I can actually have the same effect, and then I break it down when I get it. But it's going to start off kind of like new looking right off the bat. It should be pretty easy. Basically, you're going to get the metal plate, paint it blue, then laser etch the details out of it, and then like sand away or Dremel away the scratches and stuff. So it'll be pretty fun. I'm really looking forward to it. It's gonna be, I think it's gonna look really fun and really cool. I think that's the only real way to do this, because of just finding it is gonna be a possibility at this time. If you know where maybe another manufacturer has used this particular switch, this control, let me know. I don't care if it says Anthony Caramore on it. If I can just find the exact one, that'll be good enough for me to have it pretty close. It's kind of neat that we have a tip control, push to operate control on 2 different panels of 2 different brakes and makes and brands. So that's kind of cool. I think that's kind of a neat kind of carryover across the entire console as a whole. Now, starting in the middle, this is probably the most interesting part of the whole panel as far as found parts. But starting at the bottom, the one thing I'm going to mention right off the top is, due to my scale, I have been trying to keep every piece perfectly sized where I can, with very few exceptions. And for the most part, it crowds everything in a little bit closer as opposed to being spaced right out. But it does mean I get to have the actual original pieces in my build. This is one area that I did change. There's 4 columns that start with a dial, 4 lights, and 4 potentiometers, and I can't do 4. I tried everything I could. If I did 4, I would have to actually decrease the size of the throttle and the brake, and I'm just not going to do that. They are already decreased in size because I'm manufacturing them. I figured it would be just easier to do those pieces, and then everything else would kind of like be kind of odd. So what I've decided to do is just do 3. So the exact same pieces, exact same parts, but it's just gonna be 3 columns. And as you're looking here, I'm showing my wireframe of my panel piece. I think it's gonna look fine. I think it's gonna look just as good if it had 4. And because of that, when I found these pieces in my initial Bob's Bits scavenger hunt that I sent my friend James to, and thanks again for this, he did discover the dial. So he asked how many I needed, and I needed 3. So that is what I got, and I'm happy. I mean, I could have got 4 if I had changed my mind or decided to go full scale, but I think 3 is just fine. So starting at the bottom, you have 4 potentiometers that have a radio dial tuner like this with a red top like this. These are modern pieces. I think these are really close, if not the same ones. Sometimes we're doing these videos as I've been showing the real ones. Next time I'm going, oh man, I made a mistake. I thought I had the accurate one, but it's not quite right. So there will be some actual part updates in the next few weeks, because I have discovered a number of pieces, so stay tuned to that. However, I think these are pretty close regardless. I'm really happy with them. And they just go left to right. Now, my idea with these is they will control the lights that are right above that, all those yellow lights in their collars, which again, I will explain more in the actual build process. But I'm hoping that each one of these will directly control the light, corresponding lights, so that they'll blink or stay solid or dim or brightness. I kind of want them to be like all over the place, blinking and flashing. I think they just look really cool to do that. So that's what these are. And I think, like I said, I'm really happy with them. Doing just 12 of them makes it a little bit easier rather than doing so many in some respects, but overall, pretty cool. Now from there are the dials I was mentioning, and they're really cool. They are vintage pieces and actually kind of modern pieces as well. I think they've been used for a long time, and they're still being manufactured and still a desired product, and that is these. Now, I didn't know what these were at the time when they were purchased, because I wasn't sure what they are, but now I do. And as you're looking at the close-ups here, you can see that this is the exact part. And the information for them is actually on the back side, which is why you'd never see them in a photograph. They are from Bowmar Instrument Limited, England. They are dual-speed drives, or DSDs, and this is a DSD 7. These are really cool. The one cool thing I'm going to show right here is it's some sort of degrees. You can see that with the numbers going from 0 to 360. And you have 2 different ways of controlling the degrees. You can do like this little side ring that has a knurl on the side, but then you can also turn this. Now the cool thing, as you're turning this, the outer ring turns as well, and you actually get it going pretty good. I don't 100% know what they're used for on an aircraft, but I do know that they are highly sought after. I have seen these. I know I'm very fortunate to have 3 of these at the price I got them for. They go for quite a bit more on eBay, especially if they have the rest of it. So I'm really thankful that I have these. I didn't have to make them or 3D model them or print them, and I have the actual ones, and they're just really fun to play with. So I'm really looking forward to adding these to my build. But and like I said, I'm really happy to have all 3 of these, and they're all just a little bit different, as you're seeing here. Hopefully in the close-up, some have faded back, some have brighter numbers. They're just kind of kind of unique, and I like having it be kind of different per them, like how they're used throughout their time. But these are really cool. So again, if you're looking for them, you can still find them and occasionally find them on surplus websites as well. You might be able to still find them at Bob's Bits if you check there, especially if you're from the UK. Now up from there is a central panel that has 2 gauges, 2 switches, and 3 fader sliders. Now the switches are pretty simple. They look like these. I don't know if these are the right size or even the right style because they feels a little more angular, but I think it's just fine for what I'm doing. Plus it fits in my space requirements just fine, and I really like it. Just kind of on off, and I'm hoping to activate those gauges like this. Now these gauges I did find are Sifam gauges, which are, I think, the same gauges that are used there. However, if you notice, they're black with white numbers that go from 0 to 7, and I didn't know what it was at first. I did some digging and I finally found them, and I think that they are Sifam gauges, but that they're PPM gauges, which are used for decibel ratings. So if you're looking here, I think I found them and they're backlit, and I did come across some previously sold ones on eBay that I missed by a couple weeks of discovering what it was to when that was sold, so darn it, I can't find these anywhere. So for now, I'm gonna stick with this one, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove the casing and just replace the graphic to be the black graphic. It's not gonna be backlit, but I don't think they actually backlit the ones on the build anyway. But hopefully, like as I mentioned, the needle will be able to be controlled by that switch somehow or another, one way or the other. But for now, I think these are pretty close. I'm really happy with them. They are both a little bit different, and I did get a great deal on these as a pair online, so honestly I'm pretty happy with them. I think they'll do the look just fine. Again, not exact. If I find the exact PPM ones, I may switch them out, but I think honestly I'm happy with this as far as what it is. Now in the middle there are some faders, which I'm gonna have a video on in the next couple weeks, actually talking about what they are. I put a call out on Instagram where I had a direction, the right direction for another panel's faders, but I discovered these ones after finding out what those actually were. Hopefully I can still get my hands on the other ones, but we're still kind of seeing what's going on with that. But for now, these ones I'm still looking for, actually physically in hand. Whether I can go look at one and take some measurements and do a 3D model, of course, which I will be making available, or I can find a real one, in which case I can, make a 3D model, make it available, or cast it or whatnot. So I don't know if I can get my hands on one. If I can, great. If I can't, at least I know what part it is. I know where it's from. It's definitely from the 60s. So yeah, it's a part that was only in basically Toronto, maybe the rest of Canada and the UK. So finding it's like a needle in a haystack, but I hope I can find it, and I hope I can find it, and I can't wait to share all the information with you from both of those at some point in the future, along with my other updates, which I'll probably have some next week, along with the final panel of this entire build to go over with you guys. Now up from there is a bank of 5 switches, which is something else I have discovered, and they are Westinghouse power levers. Now, power levers typically are ones that you have seen before for any train system, where you pull the lever and it switches tracks or changes things one way or the other, and they're very typical and large. Now, there are smaller ones that are typically used for, miniature trains, displays, you name it, which you can see here, and there is multiple versions of these. Now, recently I did come across 2 were up for auction, which actually show a lot of the views of it, which I'm super stoked with. And these are a piece I'm gonna have to make myself, mainly because the one person that makes miniature ones to be remotely even the right size for this, I'm looking at a few $100s per. That's a little much for me, so I'm gonna make it. They don't do anything, so I'm gonna laser cut and screw pieces together, get some springs, you name it, and put these together. I'm really looking forward to it. If I do any sort of 3D modeling or plans for it, it will be included in the end of this build package for everything. But I'm really looking forward to doing these. It's gonna be a lot of fun. My scale may end up being a little bit smaller in order to make everything fit, but I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be really fun to have something that just kind of like switches and gears over. So yeah, we know what it is, but I don't think there's a way to find it, especially not vintage ones, just because they were probably taken from a big lot or a sale or something that someone had and ended up in Bob's Bits or in someone's collection that ended up on the build. So above that is the last pieces of this entire thing, which is more of those gears, as mentioned on previous panels. So that is this build. That is the entire helm. It doesn't really seem like it has as many pieces as, say, some of the other ones, but it does have just as intricate pieces to try and locate and find. So if you guys have any information about any pieces, I don't know what they are, whether you know where they're from, whether you know what they're called, at least for future builds for people who want to build these, I will update these videos and the document at the end, and I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you guys. So if you guys have any questions or comments, please let me know below. It is really excited. Next week, we're gonna be talking about my custom panel, so I'm really excited to talk to you guys about that, because as mentioned, I'm not doing the rubber panel. I'm just changing that one to be my own custom, my own creative infusion. So I can't wait to share that with you guys of where I am so far, how I've changed it from my first one to now, because it's been actually quite a few changes. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for liking and subscribing and following me through this entire process, and I can't wait to get this finished with you. But guys, as always, thanks for watching.